Everything stands and falls on leadership. That is what John Maxwell says many, many, many times. Today's conversation is about leadership and culture, and we are joined by an expert in that space. In case you're wondering why this podcast seems to be different from the other Marketing a Unique Business podcasts, it's because we want to feature and have conversations with people who are doing things uniquely so that you can get unique perspectives that can transform your business, your organization, and that can make you an overall better person. In case it's your first time here, my name is Mburu. I'm a marketing consultant at Digital Strategy and Marketing, and this Marketing a Unique Business podcast is a channel that helps entrepreneurs who are doing unique things or entrepreneurs who are running unique businesses to articulate, present them to the market, and of course, deal with the issues that arise as you try to establish a new idea in the market. Stay tuned, like, subscribe, and if you find this content useful, ensure that you recommend it to somebody. See you on the other side. Before I invite Joel to introduce himself, tell us about his experience, first-hand experience with culture, and how that has led to what he does today, I will mention about Microsoft. And when Satya Nadella came to Microsoft, it was the culture they had was more combative, it was more aggressive, it was more about competition. And of course, about 10 years back, we all thought that Microsoft was going down. But when you look at things today, the company is really picking up. But what he did when he went to that company was to focus more on culture, to make it more collaborative. And without mentioning more about that, I will invite Joel to introduce himself, tell us about his experience, his first-hand experience with culture, just to break it down so that it can be easy to understand what culture is in simple terms. Joel?
Thank you, Dennis. My name is Joel Manyeki. I am a leadership coach, and I consider also a trainer of finance and leadership. On top of that, I have been in corporate world for over 20 years, and I've mainly worked in the finance departments, but I had a stint of some years as a general manager. And just the way you mentioned about the whole thing about culture, in my first role as a general manager, I kind of thought, like, if I sit with my team, explain what needs to be done, they will just catch up and move on. And just from the expectation, I felt like by sharing more information, the culture will change. But to my shock, over time, I realized that nothing was changing as much as I thought. Generally, I'm a result-oriented person. So at the end of the day, people felt as if I'm just pushing about results, even what I was doing. So about 3 years ago, I met the Giant Tools. Giant Worldwide is a leadership company that works with companies like Chick-fil-A, Visa, Ford, US Air Force, and even they have done a research with Google. So I realized after working for some time that, yes, I could be a very good manager, but the whole thing about managing culture is a totally different ballgame. I remember one person telling me one time as I was leading them that they feel as if I am a pace setter. I am just very far from them. So they see me there, and I think that is what we will devour today. Thank you.
Okay, so perhaps you can just explain what culture is. I know it sometimes looks strategy kind of is easy because there are documents that you can see saying we want to move from point A to point B. But what is how would you describe culture in your own words?
Culture generally is kind of a little bit hard to describe because when it comes to it, it's an organism. It's not something that you would say like there is a way an organization, people, they have what we would call norms of how they operate, either written or not. So And that is what actually makes a culture of a place. So whether it is intentional or not, it is there. So the way they do their things, the way they approach issues, the way they look at when they are in places of challenges, all those things is what encompasses culture.
How would you describe the culture in majority of Kenyan companies, and how would you say that it is hurting or helping businesses?
Okay, basically, a culture is developed by two things: how you support or challenge people. That's how culture is developed. So we call that a support challenge matrix. So if you were to draw on X axis, you will have challenge. On the Y axis, you will have the support. So you find most of the Kenyan culture are in such a way that people are highly challenged, but that does not come with commensurate support. So what happens with that is that because of that, people feel as if they are being led from a place of being domineered. They are being domineered. And because of that, what comes out is that it comes to be a culture of fear. People fear their leaders. People fear it's a carrot and stick. You do it, you get results, you are rewarded. You get my point? Then at the end of the day, because of that culture, the team that is being led comes out feeling as if they are being manipulated. So if a leader or the culture tells you to work on something, you realize there is a way you're being pushed out of it. So even if it's not told to you expressly, what happens is that you start asking yourself, so I'm being asked to do this for what reason? So you feel manipulated. You're like a pawn in a chess game. So that's what comes out. So it's a culture of high challenge, very low support, very low support. And with that one also, what happens when things don't go as they expect? People start zeroing who did the mistake without really asking, have we already made supporting systems that would have made this person not to make such kind of mistakes? Yep.
Okay, I know that for most of us who have worked in corporate, in SMEs and those places, that is something that we can really identify with. Yeah, with constantly feeling like there's a gun to your head, where you must really perform. But perhaps for business leaders, because we intend to have business leaders listen to this, how would you say that culture is hurting more than helping businesses in terms of now their strategies and their purpose and everything they're trying to do?
There are two things that come out. So what happens because of this culture? The leader feels like he really has to be there for things to move. I like the way you put it across. Like you feel as if there is a gun on your head. Alternatively, we say you feel as if on your seat there is fire that is lit down there. So you have to be on your toes. So what happens again with that culture is that because people feel domineered, they only do what is really required of them. So they do not go an extra mile. They do not feel as if there is any sense of ownership because they feel they're being commandeered. They feel as if I am just here to work and produce. So you will find in such a culture, the best you can get from the people that you're leading is at most 60% of their full potential. Yeah.
Wow. I can imagine. Of course, I do interact with my friends who work at companies, and the leader of the company tells them, we are a family. But they say that they have applied to 10 or 20 other families as well. So and of course our company is always built by the people. And it's good that the role of the leader has really stood out in terms of shaping culture. And perhaps in very clear terms, how would you describe the role of the leader when it comes to shaping the culture of an organization, so that they can be conscious and aware when they are actually interacting with their employees and other members of the team?
I think the first thing we need to understand is that most leaders are not self-aware because they have found themselves in those positions. They think because they have reached a certain position, they have earned it. So they are not consciously getting self-aware of who they are. So they are not doing what we would say they are not in the school of self-awareness. Self-awareness gives you an opportunity to realize as a leader, am I a person who really challenges people with less support, or am I somebody who really supports people with less challenge? So you see, a leader on the other hand, you will find two types of leaders. There are some that you will find are really support people, but they really don't challenge them. So people who are led by such a leader, they come out, they feel protected. Their leader is protecting them. And because of that, as they go to their leader, also their leader is in that position where he is always picking up things. So if Dennis has a problem, I pick it up. People feel they have the culture of entitlement. But because of picking up as a leader, what happens is like it reaches a place he or she is overwhelmed. And when he or she is overwhelmed, she or he reacts. Because of that reaction, people feel like, oh, they cannot trust him anymore. It creates that because they feel there is a duality. There is a duality. This guy says I can do it, but because he's overwhelmed, and when he's overwhelmed, he reacts and comes out as passive aggressive. So those are the two main leaders, the ones who are domineering and the ones who are protecting. Now, to balance that as a leader, like I have said, the first thing you need to understand is to go to a school of self-awareness. We say, know yourself to lead yourself. And as far as know yourself, lead yourself, you have a certain reality that you are in as a leader. So that reality is brought because of the tendencies. And I want us to understand that tendencies do not really change. But over time, the way you respond to your tendencies, you create a pattern. And that pattern is created by the actions that you take. So because of those actions, over time, it brings you to a specific consequence that you get as you lead your people. And out of that consequence, over time, you know, the law of compound interest, or as you do do things, then you get to the reality. So number one, you can really not change your tendencies. But for you to change your pattern, you need to change your actions. So as you change your action, if I was a leader who was very domineering, so it means I was giving people a lot of challenge with less support. Now I start with challenge. So I I start with support. So I support you. I get to understand, do you have everything that you require? I'm in that place to understand what can I do to facilitate all this for you to, then I then bring challenge. So I first of all support you, then I challenge you. So that at the end of the day, I am creating a culture of empowerment where you feel there is a culture of empowerment and opportunity. You are given an opportunity also to grow. If I'm a leader who is, I would call a leader who protects his people, my biggest challenge is to challenge people rather than just supporting them. So I also learn a way, since I'm self-aware that I am a person who really gives a lot of support with less challenge. So I also learn of how, going forward, I can take baby steps to start challenging people. In that way, I'm able over time, then again with that, go and understand each individual that I lead to get to understand how are they, and specifically in three things: their skills, what we call PQ, their emotional intelligence, which also we say EQ, and then there's IQ. How are they doing in terms of the skills? The one we really in Kenya, the ones that we really look at. Once I understand the kind of person I'm dealing with, then again I'm able to say, how can I be the best leader for this person? How can I fight for his possible good? So you see, it's a sequence. You start with yourself. You cannot offer what you don't have. Then you're able to realize this is where my challenge is. So I change as a leader, take baby steps in the direction I would like to take, then start learning my people. What is their challenges? How can I support them?
Wow. I think what I'm gathering from what you've said is that an organization is a reflection of the leaders. So if people are fearful, if people don't express themselves, if people don't go beyond, above and beyond, like people don't go the extra mile, that means that perhaps is exactly how the leaders are. And I know that sometimes, and something you've alluded to as you are talking, is sometimes when the way we get to positions of leadership also is a bit problematic, because we start off as very good people technically, and then we start leading with the technical skills. Like what got us the position of leadership is what we think will sustain us in leadership. So if say, for example, you really went through a hard time and there was no support when you are getting to that level of leadership, then it becomes apparent that anybody who is working under you has to earn your respect. They have to earn your attention. And essentially, that means that a majority of them get discouraged, because it looks like you're pretty much making them play out the script of how you got to where you are. I know you have some skills, you have some tools that you're going to display to us just to help us visualize what you're talking about. But this is quite a powerful conversation. Yeah, about how we can shape culture through modeling. But maybe perhaps, I know this is something we've been talking about, but I think it's important to mention it explicitly. Oh, just define, as you explain the tools, just define what modeling is, and yeah, what modeling is, the modeling side, even as you do support and challenge, the modeling aspect when it comes to shaping culture, as you go on to explain to us the tools that leaders can use to improve the culture in the organization.
I think as far as modeling is concerned, I like the way you say that if you find a culture that is fearful, then it means most likely that the leaders are. And I like, is it John Maxwell who says everything rises and falls on leadership? And he was saying there is that thing called leadership leads. Your people can never go beyond your where you have reached. Basically, yes, there are people who can be better than you as a leader, who are under you. But the thing is, as they run around with you, you will realize that over time, if you're not increasing your leadership lead, what happens is that they will look for other opportunities out there. Yeah. So how then do we create healthy cultures? So number one is that you need to express your culture in a vocabulary. So we are a culture that through your values. So you can say like we are a culture that is people oriented. So you express it with a vocabulary, but you also now express it in a simpler term. You create tools that can help you express it. Then out of that, what is the objective or the common language that facilitates productive communication within the organization? That is what brings the healthy culture. So number one, you need to have a vocabulary, and you express it in simple visual tools. And those visual tools then create an objective and a common language that facilitates productive communication, therefore building a healthy culture. And also other good framework is when people are talking about and expressing culture, instead of just saying our main value, for example, is integrity. What does that really mean for you? Create stories. So when we mean integrity, this is what. And then if somebody works out integrity or shows, exudes integrity as they are working, create a story out of it. You get my point? And then out of that, then you are able to bring it into people's minds. And you also, as a leader, you also need to be a person who is living this culture. Because you and me know most of the organization, they have all this wonderful display of culture, mission, vision, values, whatever, all these things, but they are not practical. I'll give you an example. I once worked in a place, they had very good mission, vision, and values. But when it came to practically working around them, you would find like there were specific people. There was a lot of nepotism in this company. I will tell you that everybody who came in, the first thing that we were asked is that, are you related to the leaders? That was the first thing that came. But if you look at what the culture was, their main value was, we give equal opportunity. You see, it's not about just putting them across, but also how are you living them. And you can see on my right, you can see culture is greater than strategy. Yes. And like we were saying, most organizations really concentrate on strategy. You can see that's where everything is leaning onto. But I think it's Peter Drucker who said, culture is the breakfast for champions. And like you rightly put it as you began, you spoke about Microsoft and how it was leading and what happened.
Wow. So just on that slide, that's very, very powerful. Actually, what that makes me visualize is, it would be interesting if, as a leader, if you have the trust of people, just to ask them to write down what the culture of the organization actually is. And normally you find out culture from the most quote unquote insignificant people in the organization. Like, for example, here you're allowed to do what you want if you are at a certain level of leadership. Or here, it's all about how your rapport with the leader. If your rapport with the leader is good, then that means that even if you perform badly, everything is fine. Or in some cultures, you find that here, if you make a mistake, just know that you're going home. So I think it would be interesting, just beyond what we have written on the walls, to have a list of what the culture of the organization is, and to reflect and to compare with what it is. And maybe something else that I have captured from what you have said is, it would be nice to go beyond the ambiguous terms to having clearly defined sentences. Like, instead of integrity, we can say we tell the truth all the time. And I think that is more triggering than to say our culture is integrity. But to say we tell the truth all the time, the next question is, are you telling the truth right now? As a leader, are you telling the truth? Are you telling people everything is good, whereas things are not pretty much the same, are not going well? As a leader, are you, when you say that we show love and compassion to people in our organizations, I think that's better than these other ambiguous terms, because the question is, are you really showing love in this situation? It's quite interesting.
And maybe something else to mention is the fact that because of having this mission, vision, values, taglines, all these things, they are there and people can read them. And I like the way you put it. The issue is not what we have posted, but the biggest problem is that are we on the same page when we say integrity? People can tell you, like, you can go to an organization, because sometimes I go and just walk around with people with their visions, and you ask a very simple question. You will find very good people who would say, find 2 or 3 people who know what, ask them. Even the 2 that you have gotten, ask them. When we talk about integrity, what are we saying? They say 2 different things. So the thing is, I like the way you put it. The thing is, it's not a matter of what we have posted. Are we all on the same page?
Yes.
On what we mean by integrity, or what we mean customer-centric? What does that one mean?
Yeah, and I'd like to know, maybe if someone wants some assistance when it comes to the culture of the organization, becoming more self-aware, because you are a coach, and of course, other aspects such as helping them effect their strategy better, or align the culture with the strategy that they have. how can they get in touch with you?
Oh, okay. They can get in touch with me from my number is 0739 355 440. I think that will be the easiest way to get me. And if you call, I don't respond, I will call you later.
Okay.
Yeah, to begin with, you can start from there.
All right. Yeah, I'll also share the email and other contact details for Joel in the description, including the LinkedIn, so that you can follow his content. He has a blog, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he has a blog where he shares more about this
leadership.
content. Yeah. So thank you very much for listening to this conversation. We'll definitely have Joel on for other sessions, such as being customer centric and work-life balance. Yeah. So thank you very much, and until next time. Thank you, Joel, for coming in and sharing your wisdom as well.
You are most welcome.